Welcome back, listeners, to another edition of Interventions and Detentions. I'm Brad.
And I'm Kylie.
And you are listening to episode 4.
Woohoo! Episode 4. Welcome back from break, everybody.
Hey, thanks. We have a special guest with us today. And I guess that's the name of this episode, special guest episode. So welcome, Mr. Matt Pulley. Matt Pulley. Oh, going to throw in a sound effect here. Go ahead, Kylie.
Oh, drum roll, please, for our special guest.
Mr. Matt Pulley. Mr. Matt Pulley is our music teacher, but also teaches arts, not only here at our primary building, but also at our elementary building. So we're going to throw some questions here at Matt in just a second and have him tell us about his journey and how he ended up here at Central Noble Primary School. But before we do that, I'd like to share a quick, just funny Matt Pulley story. So Matt has been invited to do our morning announcements from time to time just to break up the monotony. And Matt is really good at he doesn't just do the morning announcements.
No.
Like Mr. T just does morning announcements. It's very repetitive, pretty much the same routine. Matt writes songs for the announcements and sings the announcements.
And don't forget, oftentimes dresses up while he sings.
Yes, so it's not only...
Which is important.
Yeah, that is the biggest, yes.
It's not only an audio experience, it's definitely a visual.
It is a visual experience as well.
Check out the Central Noble Primary Facebook page, and you can go back and find videos of Matt doing announcements. But welcome, Matt, you're our first guest on our podcast.
Looky there. Thank you. Well, thanks for having me.
No pressure at all. But
thanks for your kind words. Yeah, very good.
So let's get to know a little bit about Matt Pulley. Matt, just share your background, where you been, and what brought you to Central Noble Primary School.
Thank you very much. So I'm in my 15th year of teaching general music. I worked 12 years in public education, and then I worked a year at a private school. Then I took a year off, not so much a year off, but I worked outside the field of music ed in a residential center. And then I'm back at it. And so this is my second year at Central Noble. Fun fact, I grew up in the school district for the first several years of my schooling. And so my fourth grade teacher teaches right down the hall from me, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Cool.
It took me about 2 weeks to call her by her first name, and still I avoid it most of the time. I've been in music ed for a while. And as I was wrapping up my time at that residential boarding school working there, I checked out to see if Central Noble was starting to open up, and it was, lo and behold. And that's where we kind of came full circle there.
I want to ask a question about the interview process because it's going to be kind of fun to hear that story in a minute. But what inspired you to get into music education?
Yeah, good. Rewind. That's wise. So I grew up in a musical household. My dad had been a band director, high school band director, who then felt the call to ministry. And so as long as I knew him, which was my whole life, he was a music pastor just down the road here. And so some guys work on cars with their dads or work on furnaces. Dad and I just made music, and that's where that started. I was in choirs and things at church, and just took off from there. And so I knew I wanted to serve people and be an impact to students, to kids, and music seemed like a really good vehicle, a really good vessel for that. And that, I think, is how that all just kind of came about, is seeking to serve using this means.
Nice.
That's awesome. What is your favorite? I know you've been around different places, but what's your favorite thing about teaching here specifically at Central Noble Primary?
I love the age group. Elementary age kids are my jam. Like, they're my people. Like, I enjoyed my time outside the field, and it worked really well. But when I got back here week one in an elementary setting, I thought, okay, these are my people. Like, this is my wheelhouse.
It's the hugs, right? Don't they give great hugs?
And that's a really good point, just in the sense that they appreciate you and enjoy you, even if music itself is not their favorite thing at the elementary level. Like, my goal has always been for them to enjoy their time in my class, to look back and say, man, that guy was crazy, but we had a lot of fun. And so far so good on that, I think. So and particularly this school, the primary, that lower grade level of K1 and 2 is just a great place to be.
We've talked about that a lot, about It's not always the tests you remember or the books that you read, but it's those experiences. And I think you're a perfect example of that, especially at our school.
Yeah.
Just
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, you are super engaging in your teaching, and kids love you, and they have fun. They're excited to go into your room. Probably hate leaving your room because of the fun that they're going to miss out on. But you are really good at what you do. And I guess I'd like to know a little bit too for our listeners. Matt isn't just music. We mentioned he also teaches art. Now he teaches art at our elementary building, and we share related arts between the two buildings. So our PE teacher Scott Reese also teaches art. So that's a difficult thing to juggle when you're the music guy, but now we're also saying, hey, you get to teach art one day a week too, or you're our PE teacher, but hey, you're also going to teach art. How do you balance that? What does that look like? How did you feel coming into this, knowing like, oh boy, one day a week, I'm also going to have to be creative in a different venue? So,
Yeah, good question. So in the interview process, that was a question that was in the interview. How do you feel about teaching art once a week? And it was an easy one for me to answer. Art was one of my things as a kid. Like I loved art. I would come home and get off the bus and watch Mark Kistler's Imagination Station, and then various other iterations of instruction, and just drew a lot. And then as I got older, like life happens and things take priority, as they should, over other things at times. And so art isn't something I always take the time for that I should, but this has allowed me to impart my art knowledge, as limited as it may be, onto kids, but then just to reinvest in art. Like it's springboarded my own artistic experience again. And I find that if I do take time to create art for the sake of art, it really helps me secondarily in teaching these kids, because we've got to practice what we preach and practice what we teach. And so I don't think there was much trepidation for me thinking about teaching art. It's a little daunting, as I thought, wow, to make sure I have projects ready every week that are different and that don't carry over, since there wasn't a set art curriculum. But my predecessor here left some really good resources, basically a homemade curriculum, which really made it easy to ease into that first year. So she did a great job of teeing the ball up there.
awesome. We'll talk about teeing the ball up. You did at the beginning of that question by talking about the interview. Dr. Younghans, the principal at Central Noble Elementary, and myself invited Matt for an interview. And typically, I have people come to me in the building, or I don't even know if I've met people off campus. I've done phone interviews, which was sort of what we did, but we actually did a live, like FaceTime type interview as you and your wife are commuting across the road. Tell us a little about that.
Oh yeah. So that was different, and I was a little more not leery. It was a little more nerve wracking knowing that I was going to be over a phone versus face to face. Like there's a comfort level I think that comes from sitting across a desk from someone. There's also a nervous level, but for me, I enjoy engaging face to face, and knowing that I was going to be doing this over a phone and while riding in our van while my wife drove. So again, there were no laws broken. It was completely safe. But we have this big Ford Econoline van. I didn't mention this, but my wife and I have a good handful of kids. We've got 7 children. And so we drive the big,
a good handful. I like that.
Yeah, a big handful of kids. And so we drive the big white Ford van. And so I had a doctor's appointment 35 minutes away, which worked out great time-wise for an interview. And I even introduced them to my wife as she was driving.
I was going to say, I think we ended up asking her a couple interview questions
I think
in
so.
the process, which was really kind of fun because
That's awesome.
you don't typically get to meet your candidates' spouses and hear from them what.
What a cool experience,
Yeah.
really, and a memorable one.
Yeah,
probably you're not going to
absolutely.
forget.
I really
Matt
don't. Yeah, I
Pulley,
can remember visually seeing you guys driving down the road in the van. So it was really cool.
I remember putting on a clean shirt and a nice shirt, like and it had a collar.
Was it from just the waist up, or?
Yeah, I was wearing shorts. No, I don't know. Remember what I was wearing on the bottom, but it was professional enough. But no, the shirt, I made sure it had a collar.
Yeah, there you go.
Gosh, what would have happened like if you had hit a deer or
Yeah.
caused a major 5-car pileup?
Yeah.
We would have still hired you, I think. But
Probably
Fair
maybe
enough.
out of pity, though.
Out of
I
pity,
mean,
yeah.
at that point,
This guy needs a new big man.
Needs a man. He's gonna have a job.
yeah, thanks for interviewing, Matt. Have a good day.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
yeah. It was a really
That's a cool story.
unique
Yeah.
experience. So.
So let's kind of dive into music and art and why you think they're so important and essential for young learners. I know there's schools around here that unfortunately have had to
Mhm.
give up art or music or PE or both. I mean, just for time constraints
They'll
or
bring in a classified paraprofessional versus somebody that's been trained in that
right.
area.
And we really are lucky here to have someone who's been trained in that area, who's passionate about those things. So why? I mean, your personal view, why do you think they're so important for young learners?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a question that's often asked and often visited, and there's loads of research that's been done on the topic, and I won't belabor that point. But just to hit some main things, like when you think about art and your own experience with art, and by art I mean the arts, so visual art, performance art, music. Uh, it takes you outside of your norm in school. So let's look at this cosm of just elementary, for example. So visual art and music is different than sitting in a classroom working on math, sitting in a classroom working in language arts. Two vitally important things, but it takes them outside that realm a little bit. It develops critical thinking skills that dovetail on what they're already learning and already doing in their general classroom. Helps them with problem solving in many, many ways. Hopefully a lot of our curriculum in our school does that. But when you think about some of the challenges you have while you're creating something visually or with paper and scissors, and also, with skills related to music, being able to figure out how to get that instrument to sound correctly and to overcome a problem you might be having with a rhythm or a melody and that type of thing. So you've got problem solving as well as collaboration. Music in particular is a team environment, a team working environment, and that's another big skill. The social development can really come about well. Even if they're not in a musical ensemble like a choir or an orchestra or a band, but if they do what we do here, and they're dependent on one another. If little Johnny is singing, and then little Georgie, I know that's not a name we do anymore, unfortunately. It's just, why do we use traditional names?
Exactly.
Everybody does it.
We'll get a Georgie to enroll.
There will
Yeah,
be.
sorry,
Georgie
Georgie.
tomorrow,
That's
yes.
a great name. You have a lovely name.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a
We
great
love it.
name. But Johnny and Georgie, if Johnny is a stronger singer and Georgie can learn from Johnny, but then Johnny also has to lead and step it up and be, it's all very good as far as that social development. When you talk to folks, namely people who are out of school. In fact, I met a guy a couple weeks ago, and he was a big band guy in high school, in marching band. And he said, that's really what kept me going in high school. He said between that and auto shop, that was his survival of high school. Not to disparage the other things, but he was at a point where band is what brought him coming back, kept him coming back. Because those are your people, right? Like if you've been in a band or a choir environment, in particular, like those are folks that you might be able to identify with where you may not identify with others as much, and vice versa. And it becomes a really close-knit place. And we start that here at the elementary primary level, developing those musical skills, those social skills, that safe place to learn and develop. Like that's a huge thing that we need to do in our classrooms as music educators in particular, is develop a safe place where kids are not afraid of squeaking and squawking the recorder. Some would say that's the only sound a recorder can make, but that is not true. But squeaking or squawking the recorder, see, I've got some naysayers, I think, or at least one. No, I know.
Hey,
Only one.
You can't see our faces.
Yeah, no. But, where they can learn and develop in a safe place. And that's one thing I do drive a hard line on, is helping kids feel confident and feel comfortable in what they're doing. That social, that's where I kind of waxed eloquent on, that social development is critical and really important. And we know too, again, studies show that even cognitive development, your performance in music or your being involved in music and the arts carries over into your development of your mathematical skills and your language skills and so on down the line. So they really, really do come alongside the other things that we do. And it's a discipline. It's a discipline that requires discipline to be redundant. And so that's going to help them exponentially in life, whether their elementary music experience is where they plateau or whether they go on to middle school, high school, college, and beyond. So long story to a short question, or answer rather, but there you go.
I think the part I really love about it is the hands-on learning that music and art both bring.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, that some kids aren't going to like the reading and the math, but this might be their best outlet. And I think it's awesome that we provide it in the as young as kindergarten. Yep. And kind of build that love of it and just give them those opportunities. Because unfortunately, sometimes you don't get all those hands-on learning opportunities. And I just think it's a great resource that we have here.
It is. And I like, we kind of changed things up this year. COVID obviously made schools do things differently with schedules. And we used to have 9 weeks of music, 9 weeks of PE, 9 weeks of music, 9 weeks of PE. And, actually Matt kind of brought this to us like, hey, can we switch this up so I can be in your building every week, or in both buildings every week? And that's how it used to be done before COVID. And we're like, yeah, I think we can go back to this now. So it really helps a lot of our students who may not like PE but love music. They get a dose of music every week, or they may not like music, but they're still going to get PE every week. So I've really been happy this year of seeing that change. And I think our kids love it. I think our teachers love it. And I guess the one thing, Matt, I'd kind of finish up this segment with is for those naysayers out there that say, well, it's just music. We don't need music education in classrooms, or we don't need PE. We really need to focus on the academics. What is that one value that specials in general, not just music, not just art, what is that value that specials bring to kids and education? Put him on the spot.
Yeah,
You
no,
did.
that's a
You
good.
really did.
The one thing, huh? The one thing.
The most important one thing. No,
Or just what you think, why is that so important to have and not see schools get rid of?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, again, taking into consideration those other things that I mentioned in passing, but just the creative process, let's say the creative process is just critically important. We've seen it in our own lives, I think. When we're young and we're kids, like the kids we have here, we're naturally creative, right? You watch kids play together, whether at home or at school, and we're naturally creative. And what we do in the arts helps, bring that along as well. But then there are times and seasons of our lives where we let our creativity dip a little bit. And I think it impacts us. It has an impact. And again, so that creative passion, that creative ability of helping kids get outside of themselves, think outside of themselves, and learn to develop things that are important. Again, that's hard to take into a very small
so
thing.
The
but,
one, he really did put you on the spot there.
But it's perfect. It's good. You're fine. You're fine. But no, their creative development aids and all of the other stuff kind of we mentioned.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's kind of turn this around and have the fun part of the interview now. We're going to kind of throw some rapid fire questions at you. They don't have to be rapid fire responses, but obviously,
I kind of want them to be. I kind of want you to just first thing that comes into your head, Matt, just bust it out.
Watch out.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Here we go. I got the first one. Ready? Favorite instrument to play, and go.
I love the recorder.
Because.
Oh my goodness. Oh no.
Because I see the value for kids, but I love to play it.
Really?
I love to play it. It's a fun thing to play. It's easy to transport. Don't worry, I don't walk around all the time playing it. My 2-year-old does, but I don't.
Like you're just walking in the mall, shopping.
Like he has one around.
Yeah,
his
I've got
a recorder.
I'm that guy. Yeah,
a
busking with a recorder.
lanyard. Yeah,
just carry a coffee can around for tips. And
you can't collect very much money in a recorder case. It's very small.
That's right.
But that's all people give you is very small, if anything. So
awesome.
No, I've never tried to busk with a recorder. But yeah, I will stick with a recorder. I'll stick with
Okay.
Good question. Good
Go
answer.
to karaoke song.
Oh boy, I believe it or not, I don't do a ton of karaoke. I will tell you the very first time I did karaoke was summer of 2005. It was ironically the summer I met my wife. She was at the same place actually, and I didn't know this song yet. Believe it or not, it was Brown Eyed Girl.
Yeah.
I faked it till I made it, and so again, I don't do a lot of karaoke, but Brown Eyed Girl, I'm gonna stick with Brown Eyed Girl because really the only karaoke song I've done. Yeah.
What's harder, drawing the perfect circle in art or playing the recorder with 21st graders?
Well, see again, we're back at recorder. It's come back around.
It's full circle around here.
I don't attempt now. I see what you did there. The first grader thing. Now I may be crazy about recorder, but I'm not crazy enough to try it with first grade. So I start that in 4th grade. It can be done in 3rd. But what would be harder? I would say it would be difficult to play recorder with 21st graders. As much as I love the instrument,
really
as much as I love those
difficult to do
people.
anything with 21st graders.
Correct. Correct.
True that.
So yeah, as hard as a circle can be, playing recorder with 1st grade might be more difficult.
Okay, this is my favorite question I'm going to ask. If you were a song, what would your title be? How awesome is that?
That is a great
question.
That is
a great question.
And that's more pressure than Brad's
You can
question.
table it and we can come back at the end.
Yeah, let me ruminate on that a little bit.
All right, so getting to know you on a little more personal level, what's your secret talent that has nothing to do with music or art?
Ooh.
Okay.
Ooh,
All right.
that's
It's
a
not
good one.
completely secret, but it is in most contexts. I do a little bit of balloon art. Oh, I said art. Balloon twisting.
Okay.
Okay. I guess it
Interesting.
is art. I don't think of it
You
as art, though.
do?
I did. So
That's a
here's,
talent. That's
That
truly
is
a
a
talent.
talent.
so this goes back to when I was the young age of 8 years old. I joined the 4-H Clown Club, and I
Didn't know
was
there was such a thing.
Did
I
you have
don't
to
know if
ride in
there's
a little
anymore.
clown car?
I did not have a little clown car, but we had to learn to put on clown makeup, throw candy, paint faces, tie balloon animals, do skits. That was right here in Noble County. There was a lady who was passionate about it and led a bunch of us in that. One of our kindergarten teachers was a couple years ahead of me in the clown club. But anyway, so I picked up that valuable life skill of tying balloon animals. And then when I got into the field of education, found out, hey, I can bring this thing back out. So I've spent lots of hours tying at school events and things over the years.
We're gonna have to see.
Wow,
Matt Pulley
I'm
the
gonna
clown.
need to see some balloon art.
And I'm by no means a professional, but I can work a line at a family event at school.
What is
and
the
that kind of
best thing that you can make with the balloons? Or your favorite? What's your favorite thing to make?
Well, your go-to is always your dog and your sword, because you
Okay.
can whip those out super
And
duperly
kids
quick.
love the swords.
But I've got a cat design that wasn't my design. It's from a book that I use, but the cat design.
Nice.
It kind of has a pink pantherish face looking. I'll tie you one up sometime.
I
That would be
I
awesome.
would love nothing more.
Sounds
I'm
good.
in. I
Side gig in the making.
There you go.
I don't think I can ask any more questions because I am just focused on the balloon animal making that he.
All right. Oh my gosh.
That was awesome.
All right. You're up.
Ooh. Okay. What's your favorite guilty pleasure song? Like your go-to song. Like you're getting in the van, you're gonna put this song on. I know.
That's
Kind of
rough.
hard. We were kind of thinking our answers to these, and we're like, ooh, I don't.
know. I would say, because I do some funny things with my kids at home, and it sometimes circles back around to like a contest. Whether it was the year that I tried, somebody gave me in a white elephant exchange a 6-pack of V8. So I wanted to see how much of the sodium laden things I could drink. And it was alarming how many I could do in a short amount of time.
Oh,
It's
wow.
gross. However,
That's gross.
the song I queued up was Eye of the Tiger. Once Eye of the Tiger runs out, it's Final Countdown. Sometimes
Yes.
Final Countdowns comes first, then followed by Eye of the Tiger. Green bean snapping competition one year. It started with the Olympic theme song because it was Olympic year, but then it went back to Eye of the Tiger.
Always back to
It
I.
does
So,
pump you up.
I-
mean,
It is a good.
pumps you
You
up.
Oh, Hans and Franz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on.
We practiced that
That's
earlier
Jamaican.
today. That was a little Jamaican. That was good.
That's all right. That's all right.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Well, let's go back. Okay,
Yeah.
Oh,
we're,
yes.
we're putting you back on the spot, Matt. For your last question, what if you were a song? What would your title be? This is good.
He's thinking, folks.
I am.
Is
Yeah,
there?
if there was Jeopardy music, you could. Or
10, 9,
Oh boy.
8, 7,
On the countdown.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And your answer is
10.
I'm gonna go with, like any of us, I think, could say, and this is kind of boring, but let's go with it. A work in progress, a good work in
I
progress.
like it.
That was good, Matt. That was
All
good.
right.
I like it a lot. That
Okay.
works.
All right.
Well, Kylie, look at the time on our clock here.
Look at us. We
It
did great,
is-
Matt. We just want to
Yeah.
say a huge thank you for being our first guest, but being an awesome guest.
Yeah, very good.
And we really appreciate you here at Central Noble Primary. I know the whole corporation does, but what you do for our kiddos
Bringing
and
a big impact on our young
Yeah.
learners. And I know you collaborate really well with the junior senior high music department and art department. And that, I think that's just going to help our kids, our corporation in that area. So we appreciate you and what you do and being our first guest. Super excited.
thank you.
What do we have left? Oh, we got to tease next week a little bit.
Ooh,
Little teaser.
a teaser for the next episode.
So on one of our social media posts recently from episode 3, we had a suggestion. You know, we want feedback, we want ideas,
Yep,
thoughts,
keep sending
suggestions.
those feedbacks.
And one of our listeners asked about some SEL. So if you don't know what SEL stands for, that's social emotional learning. And so we'll try to put some things together for next week's episode on how we try to support our primary students with social and emotional learning here at Central Noble Primary.
Can't wait.
It should be a fun time.
Thank you very much for having me, both of you.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Matt.
Matt, thank you.
Check us out. We are on Apple Pod. We are on iHeartRadio. We're on YouTube and
Podbean.
of course, where we do the recording. But please like, share, and give us
Comment.
feedback.
Yeah.
Comment. We appreciate you checking us out each week. And with that, Riley?
Class dismissed.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.